Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well. Our New York Mets are actually in a playoff spot right now. From the last time we played a couple days ago, after sweeping the Red Sox, we left ourselves at a half game out of a wild card positioning. But yesterday, a bunch of teams lost to catapult us into that last playoff wild card positioning spot. So it is all good feelings in New York City. Are you ready? I'm going to keep saying this. Is New York ready for a special run? Because I feel it. I see it. I see the vibes in Citi Field. I see the way this team has overcome adversity over and over and over. This team has been counted out since day one. Day one. Last year, we had all the pressure on us. This year, we had no expectations. Nobody expected the Mets to be this good. And if people are telling you, oh, yeah, we expected the Mets to win 90 games after they signed Severino, signed Manaea, after Kodai Senga got injured, after Alvarez was injured, after our bullpen was horrendous, after we were 11 games under 500. We were counted dead months ago. This is such a good feeling. Every time we get knocked down, this team tells you why they are special. This team is special. I know sometimes it's hard for Mets fans to realize that our team can be special because we often find a way to lose. We often find a way to blow it, but this team is different. Remember, we have new leadership. This is a new beginning, and this is what I like to see. You like to see a team playing hot when it counts. The second half of the season, we have the best record in all of baseball. As of late, the Mets obviously have won 7 games in a row. We are getting hot at the right time. There are so many reasons for New York Mets fans to be hopeful, for New York Mets fans to be excited. There are questions. Yes, I'm not going to lie. There are questions. You know, will guys like Alonso, Nimmo, Alvarez, will the bats pick up? But I look at that as a positive. We're winning despite guys like Alvarez not hitting at their potential, despite Nimmo going through a pretty long slump, despite Alonso not mashing like he can, despite Martinez being on paternity leave. We are overcoming without these guys performing. Imagine these guys all start performing at the same time. Imagine we get the Edwin Diaz back of 2022. Imagine Kodai Senga comes back, and we got great news about that. Great news about Kodai Senga. It is looking good that Kodai Senga will pitch this year. And actually, it seems like from what I've read that he's actually ahead of schedule. So it is super, super good news if you're a Mets fan. You have a lot of young kids down in the minors doing good, so the future looks good. But right now, the road ahead looks bright. And everybody's talking about the schedule. So I've looked at the schedule several times. And honestly, although the teams that we're playing are more competitive, they have a better record than the Braves schedule, I would so much rather have the schedule the New York Mets have than the schedule the Braves have. And I'll tell you why. I will tell you why. And we saw the Braves lose to the Rockies last night. So it really means nothing about who you're playing. It means more about how your team is playing, because you could lose to anybody. You've seen our New York Mets lose to anybody when our team is not right. So we'll get right now. We're going to get right. We're going to play good competition, and we're going to have ourselves ready to compete once the playoffs are here. So it is so much better right now to play high-level competition. This weekend, we are going in against the Cincinnati Reds, and we have more of an opportunity. The Reds are an up-and-coming team. They're not there yet. They have the young star, Ellie De La Cruz, who's very dynamic. He's a guy who, in the future, I think could be a top 3 player in the game. But the Reds, like I said, they are not there yet. Right now, the Mets have to take advantage of the opportunity. And I'm actually going to bring up the schedule right now. And I'll tell you what I'm saying in terms of the opportunity. And before I do that, if you are watching this live or on replay, which most of you are probably going to do, please like, please subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. And I do appreciate each and every one of you. You know that. Also, drop a comment if you have any suggestions. If you're excited as well, I'd love to hear that as well. Okay, so let's look at the Mets schedule because I think that is really important. Okay, so this is going to be our schedule that we're going to be facing, obviously. And let's take a look. So we have a 3-game set. We're going to be facing the Reds. So we're playing that this weekend. And honestly, right now, we have to be very, very greedy. It looks like the New York Mets, we're 76 and we're 76 and 64 now, but it looks like we're probably going to have to get above 90 wins. Early on, you didn't think so. You thought mid 80s might have got you there, especially with the expanded playoffs. But it looks right now that we're going to have to get 90 wins. So right then and there, we need at least 14 wins. Where is that going to come from? Where's that going to come from? Any little tiny loss that we give away. If we give away any of these games, they count. They have a lot of weight right now. So let's kind of look right now what's in front of us and how could we get to at least 90 games. At least 90 games. So I'm going to do a little exercise here. So right now, we're going up against the Reds. And I'm going to say it right now. The Reds, they're not where they should be. So I'm going to say we're going to have to sweep. So we're going to get to 76 plus 3. That'll get us to 79. Blue Jays, again, let's sweep. 82 games right there. And obviously that gets us to a 13-game win streak. So, we're talking a little unrealistic here. Okay, the next series we have ahead of us is the Phillies. So let's take 2 out of 3 there. So let's get us up to 84 wins there. The next series we have the Nationals, 3-game set. We're not going to be able to sweep everyone. So let's just be realistic. Let's say we take 2 out of 3 from the Nationals here. And I know that's a team we should be sweeping, but, let's be a little realistic. So that gets us up to 86 wins. Then we have 4 games against the Phillies, and let's go 2-2 against the Phillies. So that gets us up to 88 wins. So we have the Braves and the Brewers. So we have 6 games left against the Braves and the Brewers. And if we go 3-3 in that last stretch, and you see what I was trying to do, I was trying to create some leeway in this schedule where our last 6 games against the Braves and the Brewers, we wouldn't have to do some amazing task. So if we go 3-3 and we win 91 games, that is how we can get to 91 games. And we're only going 500 the last 6 games. If we go more than 500, obviously we'll win more than 91 games. But folks, that is an example of how we would get above 90 games. You can say, hey, you know what? We'll take 2 out of 3 from the Reds. We'll take 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays. You could look at it in that standpoint as well. And then maybe you think, oh, you know what? When we're playing Atlanta and the Brewers, we'll take 4 out of 6. and then we'll sweep the Nationals. So that's another way you could do it. But this is an example. We're going to have to continue this big run. We're going to have to continue to streak. I mean, last week, a week and a half ago, we were way far out. We needed to go on a run. Without this sort of run, we would have been dead and buried right now. So we needed to win 7 games. We needed to win 7 games just to be tied for the last playoff spot. So great job. And now we have more avenues in front of us. The D-backs. We're only 2.5 games behind the D-backs. And let's look at the standings right now. The standings, we've created more opportunity for ourselves, and that is actually another good thing of us playing at this high level. Okay, so we have the standings right now, and obviously, like I mentioned, we are 76 and 64. I'm projecting right now. My early season projection was that we were going to win 86 games. It looks like that's not going to be enough to get us in the playoffs. So I'm going to say for us to get in the playoffs, we need to at least win 91 games. Based on the schedule the Braves have, which is quite easy, we're going to have to at least win 91 games. The exercise we just went through before is an example of how we can get there. Now, the Cubs was a team I was a little worried about last week because I believe they were 2 games behind us. It looks like, thankfully, we've created a little more space. They're 4 games back now. And by doing that, by winning 7 games in a row, now we are 2.5 games behind the D-backs. So let's just say the Braves do some type of ridiculous run. We can overtake the D-backs. So, I mean, this is a great, example of what happens when we play well. And I mean, San Diego, too. Last week, we were 6 games behind San Diego. Now we're 3 games back. So we have different roads to get to the playoffs. So that is good. And I don't want to be in the last wild card position. I would preferably like to be in the first wild card position. But at the end of the day, let's make the playoffs. Let's make the playoffs. All right, let me get to some comments. I apologize. I didn't get to any comments yet. Hey, Yuki. Okay, let's put this up. 90 games is impossible for the Mets. Honestly, I've been hearing impossible for the Mets the entire year. It's impossible for the Mets to make the playoffs. It's impossible for the Mets to be an over 500 team. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. Well, the thing is, they've had the best record in baseball the whole second half of the year. The last 83 games, we are 23, 24 games above 500. So, I mean, if you 4 months ago, when the Mets were 22 and 33, I bet you would have said that's impossible to go on the run we went on. I mean, everybody has said things in the beginning of the season that were unlikely. So it's fair to say 90 games is unlikely or impossible. But we have seen the impossible come true. The bullpen was a mess. It's impossible to remake a bullpen like the Mets have done several times this entire year. We have remade the bullpen over and over and over. And now the bullpen is respectable. Diaz hasn't worked back to the 2022 form, but now he's respectable. Maton, oh my God, Maton. You would have thought his ERA right now, 1.77 or whatever it is, it's impossible for a guy like that to produce how he has the last 24 games. But he has produced. Jose Budo, it's impossible for a young rookie to be put in all these high leverage situations and succeed over and over and over. So, I mean, there are a lot of times this year where the Mets have been counted out. Alvarez, Martinez in the beginning of the year, he didn't play. Kodai Senga being out the entire year. It's impossible for him to, come back. But, the Mets have been doing things differently. So, I'll agree with you. Things seem unlikely, but for some reason, this year seems to be a bit different. TJ, TP, Joseph, what is up? All right. You know the thing is about Lindor, it is actually amazing. And this is another thing that you think about. What is changing with the New York Mets? A lot of things are changing. The culture is changing. This culture is completely changed. I've said in my last live stream, it starts from the top. You got David Stearns there. You have Carlos Mendoza there. You have brand new leadership. That brand new leadership has translated to a different dynamic in culture. You bring in guys like Iglesias. You bring in guys like Winker. These are high energy, good clubhouse guys. Are they all all-stars? No, they're not all-stars. Winker has a bit higher ceiling, but these guys have essentially helped to transform the clubhouse. And it's all about the clubhouse. Texas Rangers last year, were they projected to win the World Series? No, but they came together at the right time. They had good pitching and clutch hitting, and everything worked right. I say this year, 2024, why not us? Why can't we be the 2024 Rangers? Why not? We have Manaea, performing like an ace. We have Peterson performing like an ace. Peterson, 9-1, 2.7 something ERA. Ridiculous. Severino, he's performing very well. He's got experience too. I like the things I'm hearing from him. And you got Senga coming back. So that starting rotation is starting to come round into form. They're pitching deeper into games. Like I mentioned earlier, the bullpen is looking like we have structure out there. You got late inning, high leverage guys, Maton and Budo performing much better. Diaz, still, the more time between Diaz pitching between when he was out with his injury, he's going to get better and better. It takes time for him to round back into that 2022 form. So, and it's looking good. And, we got lefties, Danny Young, Alex Young. They're being productive from the left side as well. I really like what I'm seeing. I do. And I mentioned earlier, our lineup hasn't even touched the surface of how good we can be, This lineup, like I said, we don't have Alonso producing at a high level. We don't have Nimmo producing at a high level. We don't have Alvarez producing at a high level. So, I mean, the sky really is the limit. And it all starts, I believe, Lindor, his presence at the top of the lineup, each and every game. The other day, for example, and this is an example of what kind of has to change. We're facing the Red Sox, right? So it's the first inning, and let me get back to exactly what I took note of. So it's the first inning the other day, and Lindor, he's on a 32-game streak. He's got on base 32 times in a row. And I mean, that's amazing. That is amazing. A New York Met, now it's 33 games. So 33 games, Lindor has found a way to get on base. That's a leadoff man. And now that extended his hitting streak to 15 games. So he started off the game well against the Red Sox. Next hitter, Nimmo got on base. Next hitter, Vientos. Beautiful hit. Bottom of the first inning, they throw an outside pitch to Vientos. He smokes it the right field, and that loads the bases. And Mr. Pete Alonso comes up. Bases loaded, and he has an ample opportunity to put the hammer down and for us to take the lead, right? So at that point, I'm so excited. But like Pete Alonso has consistently done, he didn't come through, and he struck out on a pitch 2 feet outside and low. And that has to change. But unlike in the past, where the next hitter behind Pete wasn't a great hitter, whether it was Vogelbach or McNeil or whatnot, now we had a guy in Winker who, didn't really succumb to the pressure. He overcame that, and we hit that grand slam, and that gave us a 4-0 lead. In years past, in games past, we would have, after the Alonso strikeout, we would have found a way to get out of that inning with no runs. I've seen it many, many times. Alonso, the worst thing you could do is strike out. You hit a sacrifice fly. You hit the ball to the right side. You hit a ground ball to the right side to get a run in. That is going to have to change in the playoffs. It's going to have to change. Yes, Winker came through, but it's not always going to have have to happen. Your guy, your cleanup guy, is going to have to produce. That was a terrible game by Alonso. It really was. He struck out many, 3 or 4 times with, runners in scoring position, and it was a terrible game. The lineup picked him up, and and also too, the Red Sox came back in that game. We were up 4-0. McGill couldn't hold the lead. It was 4-3, but we were able, once they mounted their run, we didn't succumb to that. In years past, we would have found a way to lose. But this is why this team is different. First inning, Winker picks up Alonso. After that, the Mets, even though the Red Sox made a nice run, we were able to add on and basically halt the Red Sox. So, I mean, that is different from what I've seen in the past. It is a different energy, a different vibe. There are many instances right now where we are playing winning baseball. We're hitting the cutoff. Nimmo, even though he's not producing at that high level offensively, and he's not making the crazy, nice plays. I've seen him dive quite a few times and not come up with the ball. He's hitting the cutoff, and he's playing fundamental ball. He's not playing dynamic ball, but he's playing fundamental ball. Same thing with McNeil. When McNeil gets in there and he's in the outfield, and there's a guy at third base. The other game, it was first and second. No, it was first and third, or whatever. There was a guy at third base, and he had a chance to get the guy at the plate, but instead he held the runner at second. And that is a crucial play because the next batter hit into a double play. In years past, we would have not made the fundamental play. We would have tried to nab the guy at home plate, which is a very low probability play. We're taking probability, we're taking our chances, we're making good plays now. And that's what I like to see, and that's what winning teams do. There we go, Juan. There we go. 90 wins is very possible. I mean, look at this. I mean, just even if you look at the surface, we have 76 wins, right? There's 22 games left. So we have to go 14-8. That's not crazy. That's not crazy. I mean, we have put ourselves in a position where we don't have to do anything ridiculous to get to 90 wins. We don't. We really don't. So, I mean, you could feel that 90 wins is hard, or, going to be hard to achieve. But it's not. It's not. We're playing the Nationals. We're playing the Reds. We're playing the Toronto Blue Jays. We're playing the Phillies a couple of times, which, I'm not scared of. I'm not scared of the Phillies. They have a nice rotation, but our rotation, I can argue, has been playing to their level in the last month. In fact, I saw some type of stat since July or June that we had the top ERA or top starting pitching ERA since mid-June. It was something, I apologize, I don't have the exact stat, but just goes to show you that our starting pitching is one of the top rotations in the last couple months. And our team overall has the best record in baseball. So, there you go. We're rounding into form at the right time. Well, what's up, Stanley? I wholeheartedly agree right now. This series, this Red series, and I'm not going to pretend I haven't been following the Reds. I know they have good young, Ellie De La Cruz, he's a guy I follow, daily because he's a young, dynamic player. But this series means so much more right now to the New York Mets. And the New York Mets just showed you against the Red Sox and against the White Sox that they need these games and that they can take games from, Red Sox. They were a couple games out of the wild card. They needed those games. So we have shown to be superior to teams that are fighting for their lives as well. So we're going to continue to do that. And I don't think the Reds is a team that I'm frankly scared of. And I think sweeping the Reds, I know Yuki mentioned that they swept the Astros, but I mean, it really doesn't matter. This is baseball. Anything can happen in baseball, and sweeping the Reds isn't anything miraculous. Vegas Dave. Oh, you know what? The funny thing is, I don't know if you saw my last live stream. I said that there was one guy that, one subscriber, and it probably was you, that predicted the Mets would win over 90 games before the season started. So it was probably you. I wrote it down. Everybody had the Mets winning somewhere between 82 and 88 games. I had them winning 86. But anybody who had them winning over 90 games, now there's a legit chance. I actually put out a video in the beginning of the season, what the Mets need to do to win 95 games. And, we're not going to be that far off. We're not. I think we could get to 91. I think if everything goes right, we can get to 91. But, the doubters, there always will be doubters. There always will be fans of other teams. There will always be people who question the New York Mets. It's just what happens throughout the course of New York Mets history. A lot of times the Mets have fed into that by succumbing to a lot of, things and not sealing the deal. 2007, we fell off the map. We were 17 with 17 games left, 7 games ahead of the Phillies. We folded. Other times we folded. I don't believe this is the year. I believe this is the year we literally chase down the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves, they are not the Atlanta Braves of the past. They're not the Atlanta Braves of last year. They don't have Acuna. They don't have the best pitcher, Strider. They don't have Riley at third base. I mean, they're missing their big top players, and that accounts for a lot. It really does account for a lot. And Juan, another great point. Mets have depth, and it's a great thing. The Mets have awesome depth. And I haven't even mentioned guys like Christian Scott. Blackburn is coming back. Tyler McGill, I don't have a lot of confidence in him, but, he's an extra option. We have a lot of options. We have a lot of depth. And if you look at our minor leagues right now, our minor leagues for the first time in forever now are the top 15 guys. We have a lot of pitchers in the top. Jonah Tong, he's a guy in this year who, really came onto the scene. He's nasty. He's filthy. He's another guy that, we can really put our hopes in. Nobody better than Brandon Sprout. Brandon Sprout is our number one prospect. He's a dynamic guy, a dynamic pitcher. And I think he's rated right now the number 3 best pitcher in all of the minor leagues. And he's in our farm system. So, we have a lot of reason to be hopeful. Yeah, Yuki, if you put it that way, I believed in 2022 and 2020. I'm out of belief. Yeah, the thing I could say what's different now as opposed to then is David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza. Leadership is very important. Very, very important. You see the way Lindor is playing? Lindor is playing he's playing as like a superstar. We have a legit superstar on our team. We never had a superstar guy on our team in the last couple of years. Never did. And I know Alonso hit a bunch of home runs, and he played at some times like a superstar, but you have Lindor playing like a superstar offensively and defensively every single moment of the game. That really helps out. And other players, they feed off that. Mark Vientos, a young guy coming up. I think Mark Vientos, the way Lindor is playing, has really rubbed off on a guy like Mark Vientos. So, and then once you get the guys going that, have the track records, the Alonso, Nimmo, and I think Alvarez is still dealing with his shoulder issues. But on the flip side, Alvarez, a guy who has all the potential in the world, and he's dealing with shoulder and wrist issues, he's still doing his job to impact winning. You see, I saw the other day, they put a stat, and they said the way pitchers pitch to Alvarez, they're pitching to like a mid-2 ERA, and then the same pitching staff pitching to Torrens, it's in the mid-4s. So he does a good job with the pitching staff, and that's how, those are what intangibles do. He's a guy who brings intangibles. If he gets himself right, gets the stick right, that's just all the more value. And he's not swinging right. If you notice, Alvarez, the only like good part of the bat that he can get on the ball is if it's really right down the middle or a little high. He can't get to the inside pitch. He's definitely can't get to the outside pitch. Pitchers are making him look foolish with sliders and changeups on the outside. The best pitch for Alvarez to hit is middle of the plate, high fastball, middle in. If it's low, he has trouble with it inside. If it's a slider, if it's any type of off-speed pitch, it's just fastball or bust which telling me the guy is injured and the only thing he's loading up for right now is for a fastball. It's hard for him to adjust because he's dealing with something. His swing is so damn awkward right now. It's awkward. It's not the regular Alvarez swing that I saw last year. It's completely different. It's like he's hitting off a tee, and the only thing he could do is hit in that one spot. So that just tells me the guy's just trying his best to go on the field and produce, even though he's dealing with something. Yeah. Okay. Maton throws lollipops and gets people out. So if you look at Maton, right, and I looked at Baseball Savant. I've watched Maton pitch. Maton, we all know he doesn't throw the ball hard. He throws the ball, I believe, average of 87, 88 miles per hour, which is in the 1% category. That means he's in the bottom 1% in all of baseball in velocity, right? But you juxtapose that. You look at the way the ball comes off the bat of hitters. How hard are they hitting Maton? In fact, a flip side, they're like it's like in the bottom 10%, 15%. They're literally hitting him at a very slow pace. I believe 87, 88. So the exit velocity off Phil Maton's pitchers is very, very low. So they're not hitting him hard. He's got nasty movement on his pitchers. He knows really how to get guys out. And I'm going to bring something up because I saw this online the other day and I was a little kind of shocked. So I'm going to bring up Phil Maton's Baseball Savant, and he's got pretty respectable numbers for a guy who throws the ball so soft. Okay, so this right now is 2023 Phil Maton, and I know it's not 2024, but I just want you to see exactly what he does to guys. So his ERA last year in 2023 was in the 90th percentile. Expected batting average, so hitting against Phil Maton, 96th percentile. So a guy, look, his fastball velo, it was so low, it's not even qualified. So, he doesn't throw the ball hard. The average exit velocity, this is what, he's known for. Average exit velocity is 84.5. That's the average exit velocity that guys hit the ball off Maton. Chase rate, 69%. Whiff rate, 90%. K rate, 76%. Hard hit percentage. Guys don't hit the ball hard against him. He's in the 100, literally 100 percentile. That's crazy. So, that's what he does. This year, it's not as good, but still, average exit velocity, 85th percentile, hard hit percentage, 79th percentile, ground ball percentage, 74th percentile. So these are pretty important categories for a guy who throws velo in the 1 percentile. So that's what a guy like Phil Maton, how he is successful. He throws the cutter. He's got an 89 mile per hour cutter. And, he mixes it in with a curveball and a sweeper, and he doesn't throw any of these pitches hard. But he's a guy who relies on very, very good movement. It's really funny. One, Mendy needs to wake Alonso up at 5 a.m. for batting practice and film study. There's something really different about Alonso this year. And, I was trying to figure it out. Is the guy aging? Is he putting too much pressure on himself? I think that's been the predominant belief that Alonso is putting way too much pressure on himself because, of the contract year. Now, is that true or not? I think it's a mix of many things. He's probably at a different stage, in life now. Early on, it was baseball. All his life was revolved about baseball. Now, family, it's other things. And now he's probably like, I already got a bunch of money in the bag. I think the latest prediction, they brought it way down. If 2 months ago, it was predicted that Alonso would get 270 million. Now I think the latest projection has Alonso getting 206 million. But at the end of the day, Alonso is not, I don't think he's putting in the work. I think you hit something on the nail there, because he's a guy who doesn't look like he has in the past. He doesn't look like he's as prepared as the other guys. Doesn't look like he has the same consistent approach as he does game in and game out. Some games you're like, oh my God, that approach is phenomenal. He looks like the Alonso of last year and the year before that, or last year early on. But other times the guy's swinging at pitches 2 feet outside. He's not taking pitches. He's not working the account. He's not being smart out there. He's not, he's not going oppo. He's not getting the ball in the outfield when there's a guy on third base. He's not advancing runners. He's playing very, very, and I'm going to say this, he's playing, dumb baseball sometimes. They're smart, high IQ players, hitters, runners. He's a guy who makes his bread. He makes his money hitting. So he should be extremely high IQ. And at the moment right now, he's not. Doesn't mean down the stretch and in the playoffs, he doesn't get there. And he has an opportunity. Carlos Beltran, years ago, I'm going a huge reference, 20 years ago, I remember they had that magical, playoff season with the Astros. And I know he's going to get a big contract, but I think it really helped get him, maximize his contract value. Performing in the playoffs could really add on to your contract. If the Mets see that Pete Alonso carries us through and gets those big, let's say Daniel Murphy types hits and home runs throughout a playoff run, Pete Alonso is going to help his value. But this year, Pete has showed how unclutch he is. Runners in scoring position, he is hitting abysmal. So he's got a lot of work to do there. Hey, Johnny. Okay, good move pitching Mania on regular rest tonight, giving Quintana extra rest. I have to admit, I would never have imagined Mania and Peterson pitching at this high level. Severino has been good also. So, I mean, this is the thing that David Stearns promised us. We were going to develop the young guys, and we were going to develop, our team. We were going to develop our players, Vientos, Peterson, these are major contributors to the team. And, Peterson, I'm telling you, I felt like I gave up on him last year. Like 2 years ago, he was a guy who I thought, oh, you know what? Let's put all my stock in Peterson. He was a guy that I thought should have took up, a year or 2 years ago. But now this year, maybe it's a guy like Mania who, has a similar type of, mechanical delivery. Maybe he has really rubbed off on Peterson, because those two, like I said, I put those two together. They are developing at an elite level, both of them. I mean, Mania says that it's him throwing more three quarters. That's what's really helping him, a la Chris Sale. But, whatever Mania is doing has kind of rubbed off on Peterson. And at this point at the season, you want to throw your best pitchers as many times as possible. I want to throw Mania as much as possible right now, especially he may not even be on our team next year. So get as much positive, innings from this guy as you can. Hey D. Okay, this is a very good question. Can you comment on our bullpen, and if I think it's elite or pretending? So I'll say it like this: the bullpen was developed, or we reprocessed this bullpen 2 or 3 times this year. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, this bullpen was supposed to be completely different. Some guys have went down. Rayleigh went down. And we constantly had to recycle guys. Jorge Lopez, we had guys who didn't perform. So at this point in time, We have a Phil Maton, we have a Budo, we have a Diaz, and those guys are pitching in high leverage situations. Would those have been the guys that you would have projected in the beginning of the year? Probably not. Probably not. So I would say we're not elite yet. We're not elite. We're not elite by far, but we're developing. We're developing, and we're a very situational bullpen. We're kind of reminding me of what Tampa Bay, how Tampa Bay used their bullpen. So I would say we're not an elite bullpen. We're not pretending. I would say we're a good situational bullpen, and we are still developing. We're still developing. And I think for us to get better, we have to develop the bottom end of our bullpen. So we're only as good as our last couple guys in the bullpen. So I like the other day, Stanek, he came in a 7-2, 7-3 game. He's a guy who, he's a guy that you thought could have pitched in high leverage situation. But, he came in with lower back spasms. I want everybody to remember that Stanek had lower back spasms. So, as time goes on and that gets better and he throws in situations to get his confidence up and you get the back end of your pitching staff good, Danny Young, Alex Young, those situational lefties, I like the way those two have been pitching as well. So I would say we have a very good situational bullpen that is developing. And, I'll say we're top 10 right now. But elite would probably have to be like top 5. So we're not quite there yet. So, I'm gonna wrap this up. I work at 2 o'clock, so I just wanted to get a quick live stream out, touch base with everybody. If you could like, subscribe, we got a very, very, very big weekend coming. Very big weekend. These next 2 series are everything. I say we need to take all 6. We need to take all 6 from these 2 teams that I think we can basically stomp on. These 2 teams don't have much to play for. They don't. They don't. So let's put the hammer down. Let's take this win streak to the next level. I don't care. 13 games in a row. It may seem impossible, but the Mets are doing the impossible. They're already done the impossible. A lot of people projected the Mets would win 76 games. We're well ahead of that schedule. So keep it up. Let's go Mets. I feel good. I'm pretty sure you feel good. And, have yourself a great night. And I will touch base with everybody very, very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day.